Welcome to the premier Music Go Round Table. This edition is called Drumb Dumber, and I am joined by the dumbest drummers around Milwaukee, some of my favorite people and your new favorite people tonight. At the far left here, we have the homie, the one and only, Shane Hochstetler from Howl Street Studios. One studio.
Howl Street Recordings.
And it's close enough. It's a good studio. They record there. It's both things. Shane is an incredible drummer and recording engineer. So that's why I really wanted to have him around here. And he smells nice. To the right of Shane, this man cannot stop laughing this evening. We love him. Everybody knows him and loves him. John Harris Jr. John, how are you?
I'm struggling right now, but I'm okay.
John is an incredible drummer. A working drummer who literally has been gigging all day, which just is a testament to how much this man works. Just an all-around incredible drummer, whether he's live in the studio or when he just sits around and can't stop laughing at everybody around him. Or we're there. John, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And here we have Sahan Jayasuriya, not only a kicking drummer who's been around Milwaukee and the Milwaukee area for all his life, but a music journalist who has so much knowledge up in that noggin. And hopefully we're going to take a peek at what's inside there tonight and learn a little bit about drums and music from that guy.
Yeah, sure.
Thanks for joining us.
It's wonderful to be here.
And my name is Tim Baltes. I'm the idiot who's going to run this thing. So let's see what happens. Thanks for viewing. So the first thing I want to start talking about is gear. And drummers, the big thing we're always talking about is snare drums. It's one of the cornerstones of our sound. And we have way too many of them, each of us, I'm sure. And I think this is one that every drummer should have. And we can kind of talk about this. This is one of Sahan's Ludwig Acrylites. So, Sahan, tell us why you own, what do you own, 3 of them now?
I've owned a lot of them over my life. I think I currently just have 3. No, 2. I have 2. So I have a Keystone one too that's at the house. But I've been playing them for a long time. I acquired one when I was younger, just out of necessity, and it was, everyone knows those started off as like student model snare drums. And I just had it because literally it was a snare drum. That's why I had it. But once I, put like decent heads on it and like got it tuned up, I was like, this sounds really good. And then it wasn't until a couple years later I started hearing like, this person's playing one, this person's playing one. I think the first time I heard of someone using it was like around 99 or 2000. And I heard that Zach Lind from Jimmy Eat World was playing one on the Clarity record, which is a fantastic drum sound. And then slowly you started hearing about more and more people playing them. But for me, it's just like, you and I goof about this sort of stuff, but it's like you hit it, it's tuned well. It's just like, that's what a snare drum should sound like, I'm not like a big wood snare guy, but this kind of is a nice halfway between like, like a steel shell and like a wood shell. You can kind of get look at it's aluminum, so you can kind of get bunch of different sounds out of it, and they're still pretty affordable, and I like them.
I totally agree. It's one of those things where if you walk into music around, you're going to find at least 5 of them on the wall. And what's interesting to me is even though when we think about what drums have more tonal differences between the drums, I generally think wood, because it's going to come from different trees. You have all these different species and that sort of thing. But even with metal drums, whether it's aluminum or brass or anything in between, I still find that whether it's a difference in age for those drums or just a difference in the actual 1, 2, 3 different drums from the same year, each one of them has tonal characteristics that are going to be different. And that's what kind of attracts me to this sort of thing, is you're always going to chase that perfect one for you. Shane, how many times do you see people bringing in an Acrolite to the studio? And I mean, how do you find them as an engineer? Do you like them? Do you hate them?
It's always 90% player. So a snare sounds great when the player is great. But yeah, I've had a lot of them come through. I think the first time that I ever was really aware of them was in like 99. I saw Shellac at the Globe East. And that was the first time I ever saw them. And, I'd heard them, I was a fan of them before, but like never saw them. And then I remember just trying to like imagine like what is this drummer playing? It's such a, it pops, but it has body. It cuts through the mix, and then saw them on the Globe stage, and I maybe that size or maybe even thinner, but yeah, just like Todd Traynor hits that drum and it just like through your head, and it's like, oh, okay, apparently an acrolite. Good to know. So yeah, they're incredible snares.
And John, I know you have that green one still. So I know you've owned at least 2 or 3 of them over the last few years, at least, right? So like, are you using the acrolite mainly live, or what are you using that thing for?
I use it live. I don't know. I'm kind of torn between the acrolite and the Superphonic, but if I had to go based on what I've done lately, the acrolite has been like the all-in-one. For me, it started off in middle school. Middle school jazz band class, like Sahan said, we get the entry-level student snare, which was an acrolite. Take the acrolite. Now, this is before I realized what a drum key actually was used for. And I cranked the entire snare. And I was like, So for me, I think the acrolite has been the most versatile snare I've owned out of all the snares. Yeah, it's been the most versatile. The one, I even, and I hate to say this, but I'll say it on camera, I even put it over Yamaha's aluminum.
That says a lot.
That's yeah.
There was a time when you were the Yamaha fanboy, which I think,
man,
I'm going to pull out another toy that we're going to talk about right now.
I just want to say right now, it's funny you say before you knew what a drum key was. I was like 11 when I started playing drums. I kept hearing about drum keys. And I was like, oh, cool, it unlocks something in the drum set. Yeah. I'm still waiting to figure out what it unlocks. Tone.
Potential.
Yeah, both of those.
Possibility?
There it is.
Thank you.
The drum key. I thought it was going to look like a keychain. I was like, I was waiting on it. Oh.
Yeah.
So after I get this, we got to give her a little doink there. All right, well, that's close enough. Okay. So now I brought out this little puppy here. This is a Yamaha 14 by, I think, 7, Elvin Jones snare drum, maple shell, lacquer finish, right? Not wrap? I think it's lacquer. I don't feel a seam. I'm pretty sure it's a lacquer finish, but the cool thing, too, is the wood hoops on this. And this is actually one of Shane's, from Shane's collection. So, Shane, I know you received this as a gift, but I think it's not only a gift to you, but just about everybody who walks through your studio. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what's so special about the tone and stuff that you get out of a drum like this?
Sure. It was my wife got me that it was our second Christmas together in like 2001, 2002. And so that drum for me was like all of the Call Me Lightning tours, all of the Haymarket Riot tours, like all of the Zebra. I mean, for the last over 20 years, it was like my drum. And then I cracked a lug casing about 10 years ago. Found out that they didn't make them anymore. Was lucky enough to get another lug casing, and then just kind of retired it to studio drums. But yeah, for the last like 15 years or so, I don't know how many bands came through and would play on that. I mean, it looks gorgeous. So like right away you're like, ooh, what's that? But it also just sounds as great as it looks. And so, yeah, it's really warm, but also I don't know what the wood hoops are doing, but there's definitely a different kind of sound. Like I've put wood hoops on other drums because I was so attached to I rim shot a lot. And so getting that sound of the rim shot with that drum is just a different kind of sound from like metal hoops. It's not for everybody, but if it is for you, it's like, that's the drum that just, it sings.
So even side sticking is beautiful. With the wood hoops. With that snare.
Well, and John, I wanted to bring this up too, because you have a long history of using Yamaha drums, and I think that's one of the few brands that you probably still love, I hope.
I do. But I've been heavily convinced to play low with drums. So
I think that's kind of, because I've been playing Ludwig on and off for years, but I come back to it every single time, and it's just like, this is home for me tonally.
Yeah.
I know, Sahan, you're a Ludwig lover for life. And Shane, what do you think about Ludwig? Are you into Ludwig stuff?
Jenkins Martin for me, man.
Now, see,
It's a whole different world, but
it is.
Ludwig, yes, of course. Duh, right? I mean, come on. But yeah, like there's definitely a character to like those, especially the older Ludwig drums that like I just don't like modern drums. Like most modern, they're just, especially when I learned that the majority of those companies are using like just the same shells, so you're just kind of paying for a badge and hardware. But yeah, older Ludwigs, sign me up. But you were the one that turned me on to the Jenkins Martin. Like I was aware of them, but then when I saw your video and I reached out to you and I was like, can you please bring those up to my studio? And those for the last 5 years or so, maybe close to 5 years. Again, I don't know. I'm not saying that they're better than Ludwigs, but they are different in a way that I think the character that old Ludwigs have, Jenkins Martin has in a different kind of way.
Well, what's interesting
not
about
to sidetrack.
No. I think this is a good direction. Have you ever played any of those?
No.
I don't think you have either.
I've watched you play them, and I've seen Shane play them, so I know that like when real players play them, they sound good.
They sound like real drums.
I've never seen or smelled one.
Well, so what's interesting about these drums, and this I think we can get into like odd materials. So Jenkins Martin is known for the prolific studio work that those drums have been used on. Hal Blaine had two, I believe, huge sets of these concert toms made by the company under the name Blamire at the time. And I don't know if the construction method changed from Blamire to what Scott is doing with Jenkins Martin now, but what the drums are now is they have a huge set of mandrels, these big metal circles, and they take threads of fiberglass filament, they run them through a bath of epoxy, and then run them over the mandrel until they get a drum shell to the certain thickness that they want. So it's different than taking sheets of fiberglass and making a drum shell. So it creates almost like a grain structure, and I think that is the special thing about Jenkins Martin.
Well, and then after that, Scott hand sands these things down. He's in a like full protective suit, and he hand sands them down until he can, bump the shell and get the fundamental tone to just be like perfect. And yeah, it's kind of it's a 2-man operation. They're out of Columbia, Missouri. Before the pandemic, there was like a year wait for they're crazy. I learned I first saw them at Electrical Audio, and Albini like was raving about them, and then I was like, oh, but I didn't try them yet. And then I saw your video and was like, all right, just starting to Tim loves them, Albini loves them. I can't imagine not loving them. And then you brought yours up, and it was a life changer. So
well, and you got incredible tones out of them too. I mean, I think the beautiful thing about recording drums is it's not just like guitar where you might have one mic in front of the guitar and maybe you have a room mic or two on the cab, whatever. But with drums, we have usually 10, 12 plus microphones on the drum kit. And you have to figure out how to turn those drums, the drumming, and then all the microphones into one unified sound. And that's something I've been trying to improve myself for the last 6, 7, 8 years that I've been trying to do that on Instagram.
It is a lifelong journey, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
It's like miking every string on a piano, but make it sound like one piano. And so, it's not just like, it's the drum set. It's like within that drum set is, sometimes 10 different instruments. So, yeah.
But it starts with the player and the drumming. And I think that's what's so special about what John does is, John, from my perspective, you're not just obsessed with the way, the beat, the groove, the fills, but the sounds that you get out of your drums. You are so particular about getting that to sound just like you. So what is the process for you, or has been the process of you developing that voice from your instrument?
The process for me has always been how do I paint a picture where it's not, I use what Shane said, it's not the same picture as every other gallery, or it's a better way. How do I paint a picture that stands out, that you remember when you go to the art gallery? Oh, I remember this photo, or I remember this, or this was the highlight of our visit. So
whenever I hear you playing, though, it's if you think about it in the terms of a visual artist,
yeah,
a John Harris recording or a John Harris gig always sounds like a John Harris gig. Like, you have such a distinct voice on the drum set, and I love that about what you do.
I appreciate that. It's been more me just trying to tell my story amongst or as a part of the artist. So if the artist has, they have a vision of this is what we're trying to convey. I hate using my hands, but I use it from time to time. If they have a story that they're trying to convey, or if they have some type of vision or direction they're going in, my thing is always, okay, I'm hearing what they're doing. I'll use a specific artist, for example. He has things that he does live where certain dance moves, I have to make sure I accent it. If he's moving this way, I hit an accent here. He's moving that way, I hit an accent there. But those things, I always try to find different ways to make the accent distinct. So it's like, oh, okay. Where the artist is even sometimes like looking back at you like, oh, okay. So if he's doing, move to the left, I'm hitting maybe snare or tom or whatever. But it just takes more for me just really leaning in and being one with the music. I know we hear that a lot. You got to feel the music, but it's literally you have to be engulfed with it. And that's been always my thing in regards to when it comes down to my sound. It's just unifying with what is given to me to convey.
And I think each of us does that, because not only are we musicians, but we're prolific listeners and lovers of music. And that's, I think, where I love Sahan's drumming and the perspective that he brings, not only as a drummer, but then as someone recording drums. And so from a recording perspective, you're only using a few mics.
I mean,
you're getting,
it's usually one mic.
Yeah. And you're getting sounds that are very reminiscent of recordings from the 60s and 70s, and it's right in your apartment. So can you walk us through a little bit of like, how do you do what you do?
Yeah. This is all gonna be edited, right? Because I kind of want to jump in and say something about what they're saying.
Please, yeah.
So
yeah.
before we get like off track, so I thought it was really interesting how you were talking about how like the artist you're playing with, how you like accent, like they move a certain way. That's a total James Brown, JB's thing. Like he moved a certain way. That's me. He wanted like when he moved a certain way, he wanted the whole band to do those accents, the horn section. He was playing with 2 drummers, 3 drummers live sometimes. And by that same token, that's also something that Fugazi would do, because they never use set lists.
I didn't know that.
It's insane. They never use set lists. They just practiced. For all you kids out there, there's a thing called practice. Should probably do it. But they never practiced. They gigged so much. And they would play so much, they knew that if this person moves this way, that means it's this song. When Guy does this, that means we're going to do this song. And it's just like that level of discipline and just, chemistry amongst 4 people is just amazing. And like the other thing I wanted to mention is that like you talk about like how you approach engineering or how you approach drumming. I think the big unifying thing there is intention. I can ask you why you do something or why you do something, anything, and you can tell me why. Because you know why, because there's intention there. And there's something to be said about intentionality when it comes to creativity. Because a lot of people can just say like, oh, it's a vibe, bro. And like, that's cool. Like, I'm not, I'm
not knocking the vibe, people.
Not knocking the vibes, by all means. But like, there's something to be said when someone can tell you why they did something. It's because they thought about it, And I think there's something to be said about that. So I just wanted to jump in and say that.
No, I appreciate that. So let's get back to...
You can ask the question.
Yeah, can you tell me about your vibe? What... what I love about... So we have... Shane is very much... Here's the multi-track drum recorder. who is very much into the science of recording and bringing his own flair to that. John is someone who is so totally dedicated to the craft of drumming and how that translates, particularly in a live environment. And now Sahan, everybody's in their own lane, and Sahan's lane is so interesting to me because here's a guy who does record with like one mic in an apartment, sometimes to tape, like a cassette tape.
Yeah.
And it's the most incredible, crazy sounding stuff that I've heard in a long time. But to me, it's because it's an amalgamation of everything you've listened to, all the knowledge you've gained. Think about, all this knowledge that you have just bringing this up about Fugazi. And that's just one band. I mean, thousands and thousands of bands you know so much about, and it's so fun to talk with you.
They're the only band.
They're the only band. But so tell me about your process. Like when you're recording a beat for someone,
Sure.
what does that look like, and what's the intention behind what you're doing?
The reason why someone asked me to record drums for them is probably because they heard me recording drums for someone else. And they heard me record drums for it all goes back usually to people hearing the records by my good friend Graham Hunt. We all love Graham. He's the greatest.
Oh, yeah.
And years ago, after Graham had split up, he was in a band called the Minute Reruns. We were in a punk band together called Midwives. And he started making these solo records. And, as far back as I can remember, we used to talk about he was and is still really into things like the Happy Mondays and Primal Scream and that what they call like the Manchester, like the baggy kind of the early 90s British indie stuff, like that kind of predated Britpop and kind of predated shoegaze. It was a lot of guitar-based indie bands being influenced by like acid house and even like hip hop. And so they'd write these like sort of like jangly guitar songs over like breakbeats. And he was like, I want to do something like that. And I just didn't understand it. I thought we were like joking about it, right? And he kept talking about it. And then he was like, this is probably about 6, 7 years ago. He was like, I really want to do this. I'm like, fine, whatever. So I set up 2 mics, I think. One was a harmonica mic and one was a Shure 55. Was it 55 SH?
That's the one
the
that
Elvis mic.
And the Amy Winehouse recording.
Right. So, and the only reason why I even own one of those mics is because I saw, not even video, just a photo from the drum tracking of the Amy Winehouse Back to Black record, which that drum sound is incredible. Obviously, there's a lot of processing and whatever else that goes into that, but it's just a really beat up Slingerland / Ludwig kit. There's an acrylate there. There's some old A's, a couple of baffles, and it's just that one mic. And it's just sort of like kind of in this weird in-between area where there is no rack tom. It's just like a snare, floor tom, and a kick, and then 2 cymbals. And it's kind of somewhere positioned where a rack tom would be, maybe angled a little bit. And because of where it's positioned, it sort of picks up everything. And then if you take that dry and you process it or EQ it or do whatever you want to it, you can bring out the qualities that you want. And I think leaving it that minimal, you can kind of, if you like compress it, it gives you that sort of sound of like, old 60s funk 45 or something like that. And that's what, a lot of those early samples were from. And so I just recorded a couple of beats like that for Graham. And it ended up, on one of his records, and then did it again. But, people have heard those records. I'm like, oh, like they asked him, like, what did you sample? He's like, those aren't samples. Sahan gave me those, which is great. I love sampling, and I can't play like Clyde Stubblefield. I can't play like, John Jabbo Starks, but I could try and, do like my own version of it. So it's interesting because it's not really trying to do like a throwback thing as much as it is to try to like make things that are just like a little bit dirtier and a little bit blown out. Before the cameras were rolling, I was talking to Shane about how much I hate like that sort of like notebook paper snare drum sound that's like so everywhere and like doesn't sound like drums. So it's like, what's the point? Like drums should sound like drums, and like, yeah, like the dead drums thing is cool, but just like it gets to the point where it's just all homogenous. It's like the same thing. It's just like, this isn't even fun anymore. It isn't even cool anymore. Like drums should be knocking, dude. So yeah, that's my long answer.
Oh, I think that's a good answer.
Sure.
And it's so different from my own approach. you know, where you're in an apartment, I'm in a basement. And I've been fortunate enough to use that basement to do recordings for Disney, you know, movie soundtracks, Warner Records. And I think so much of, for me, of what the special like sauce of my sound is a $100 room mic. So what I use is I use a cheap little ribbon mic, and I put it about 30, 35 feet out in front of the kit. And I put it perpendicular, since the polar pattern means it's going to pick up just the walls and nothing that's coming directly at it. So all ambience, no transients. And for me, that's been a game changer. I post a lot of videos on Instagram, and overwhelmingly it's people saying, wow, those drums sound huge. And I'm like, dude, it's just a Wisconsin basement. So
not to jump in and interrupt here, like, all of these things sound great, and I'm not blowing smoke up you guys, but it's true, is because you guys are all great players. Like, that's the thing. Like, for real, the reason you can get away with one mic and most people can't is because you have a touch. Same with you. The reason that that all of our favorite drummers and all of this stuff, it's all the gear is fun, but it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like, if you like, if I can dangle a 57, if I can just hold a 57 in the air above any one of you guys playing AC/DC beats, and I guarantee that if you play the same beat, all four of us, it'll sound different. But 1,000%. But if I can just dangle that mic over you, and it'll sound great because it's the player. That's the reason. So, like, you know, the gear is fun to talk about, but yeah, like I just, you know, for anybody watching, I want to stress that it is always the player.
So
that it is always the player.
As an engineer who's gotten to watch hundreds of drummers, what are the kind of qualities that you look for in someone that says this is going to be an easy day for me? Easier day.
Well, I don't know that I can, like, look at something and see, because I have been fooled. There have been times where the drummer snobbing me, just, you know, I'm sure we've all done this. I guarantee we've all done this. You go to a show and you just see the band isn't even on stage yet, but the gear is, and you see how the drums are set up, and you're like, oh man, come on.
Yeah.
There's no way this drummer is going to sound good.
You see the JCPenney set up with the two toms.
Yeah.
Or the toms are like this. And I'm like, oh, dude, you're stabbing the toms. So, but I've learned to not be so snooty pooty, even though it's fun. Because perfect example, Don Caballero.
I knew you were gonna bring up Damon.
If anybody, just go look up Don Caballero on YouTube. Again, I was fortunate enough to see them in the like 97 or so, and I knew the music, but I had never seen the band. I just imagined this drummer having like a 10-piece kit, probably something fancy. It wasn't. It was a Pearl export, I think.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it looked like they just dragged it behind the van on tour. I think he had a block of wood screwed in the one side of the kick drum because it was missing a leg. He pounded nails into the stage so it wouldn't move forward. The snare was like here. First rack is here. Cymbals are up here. It's insane. It's crazy. And he slays. So that was a kind of an early thing for be like, okay, don't judge a book by its cover. And then I've had multiple bands come in where like a drummer sets up and, you know, again, like my lizard brain would go like, this is not going to be good. And then the drummer just hits the drums. I'm like, oh, this is going to be, you know, like then I'm back into my like, okay, I just have to not screw this up, you know, because it's a great drummer. So I don't know if I can tell visually anymore.
What about like with the playing, or like what do you listen for or look for?
I mean, generally, like for me, like if a band's in, whatever kit the drummer's going to play on, we just make sure that the source is sounding the way that the player wants it to be, whatever tuning, high or low. But once the source sounds the way that the drummer wants to sound, then I just sit back for like a minute or so and just watch them play. and then I can just kind of hear how they play. I mean, like we've also had many conversations about like what sort of style they want their, like any sort of production-y sort of things that they want, that their band might want for the record. But yeah, generally, like if just, you know, and I'm sure you can all attest to this, is just listen to a drummer just go doom ga, and that's it. 4 hits, and you'll know, like, okay, this drummer's balanced. They know how to hit the drums. They know how to get the drums to hit, you know, they're hitting the sweet spot. Like if you hit a drum too hard, chokes it out. Don't hit it hard enough, sounds wimpy, you know, and not wimpy, but like in a rock band, or, you know, like if you need drums to cut through. So you just like, I feel like within 30 seconds, I can kind of see how balanced the drummer is. If the drummer is not very balanced, I will then bring them into the control room, have them listen back just to the room mics, because the room mics don't lie. And, you know, if they're bashing cymbals and kind of tapping the snare, but if they want really big sounding drums and powerful, you know, snares to crack, it's like, it's all you, man. Like a great drum mix is all the drummer. Like, yes, there's some things that we can do, but if you have to rely on a lot of that stuff, you're moving further away from a real human playing drums in a room. So don't know if that answers your question.
I think we're getting there. And John, you might have some perspective on this. So you grew up playing in church, but you also went to a performing arts high school. Is that right? Or like a high school? Is that right? Or did you go to?
I went to what was like more performing arts middle school.
That's what it was.
My middle school was the, I would say the breeding ground for high school of the arts here in Milwaukee. But I didn't go to high school of the arts, which I wish I would have. But the middle school was definitely that cut your teeth here. This is the base foundation. That's, like I said, that's where I found out about the whole drum key thing. But it was more so just kind of like what Shane said. It was you, the player, and sitting in band and you watching all the other instruments and all the other drummers with you. You start to see things. It's like for me. I have to say it was almost like, you know, you just freeze time, and it's just like you see everything in a different lens. Like, okay, the wind instruments does this. This is where the wood and the strings do this. Drummers would do this. And you start to see almost on the grid as if you're recording. You can see, okay, this is where this is. And then you put you there. Now you have to take everything and make this sound like one.
You're the glue.
Yep. So that's kind of where it was for me with the whole thing with the school. But yeah.
How did you tell, like, I mean, especially as a kid going into that, and then as a kid and, you know, growing up into an adult, seeing that in church, like, how was there a way to tell, like, could you say like, oh, this dude's going somewhere, this guy's got something? And what's that? How do we identify that X factor? Is it just something you got to know, or is there like, I've always wondered that, and I don't know if I have an answer myself.
I don't think it's so much of an X factor. I think it's more, I'll be honest, it's a character. And that's one thing we don't talk a lot about with musicians. We don't talk about the character. Your character is what we see projected in your playing. And a lot of times people's character can be, as you said, we judge you. I'm guilty of what Shane said, because if I go to a gig and I see, or concert and I see the drums, the first thing I'm looking at is like, okay, he has X, Y, Z. Okay. And now the first song, my first thing is, how do you compliment each individual player on the bandstand? Are you paying attention to the artist? Are you listening to the rest of the band? That right there shows character, if you're able to literally play your role, but then compliment everybody else's and still drive the ship without saying, hey, I'm the star of the show, but it's more about us. And that's kind of like one of the things that I look at when it comes down to drummers. And most times the question I'm always asked, well, what do you do for practice? I listen. That's the only thing I can tell you. I really don't play much. I just listen. Listen and pay attention. So that's it for me.
That's it. I mean, dude, that's it, I think.
That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you hit on so many things, and like, I'm going to talk about intention again, but like, there are people, especially in the last like 10 years in like the social media era, you know, like there's people who like, they've become known as like, a person who plays X instrument on X platform, whether it's Instagram or YouTube, like you're like a drummer on YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that. You don't do this, but I notice a lot where these people, they make videos and the entire point of the video is just shredding, right? Just doing chops and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I'm always watching them like, what song does that work in? You know? And like, you can make videos for people like pass around on their phone and share and send to them send to their friends and stuff like that. But you think you're gonna get a gig from doing that?
So I think this is sort of what people kind of think of as like old people stuff versus young people stuff.
Totally.
And
Agreed.
And so the way that I kind of frame this is there's a difference between being an artist or a musician and being an entertainer.
Totally.
And what's so hard is for me, I have to ride that line because I want to put out, this is a great example. Okay, so I made some videos last month where like one thing I did was a Ben Howard cover and I felt really good about it. Like I love Ben Howard, love his new record, did this cool drumming over it. It was a little shreddy, but it's, you know, I'm trying to, I do the fills for the views. I do the grooves for the jobs, you know, for work. And so I felt really good about this video. That was music. It was art. And then I did a really stupid video in the same session where I was playing death metal drumming, like blast beats over a Shania Twain song. And I did it one take. It took like 30 seconds. That was it. And I thought, this is the stupidest thing. And I felt really good about the Ben Howard video. I put out the Ben Howard video. It gets about 500 likes, you know, whatever. That's a good post. But I put out the Shania Twain video. It gets almost 450,000 views and 15,000 likes for the stupidest thing that I've likely made in the last 5 years. So, but I also gained thousands of followers from that video. So for me, talking about entertainment versus art is that if you can use both of them as tools, like consciously, I use the entertainment to draw in new people, which then helps bolster my general visibility so that when I do post the art and no one cares about it, the few new people who are going to care about it might be the people who I want to connect with, the people who might be new friends, might be new clients or whatever. So I see the argument for saying, well, why would you just play fills all the time? Because it's probably not going to get you a lot of work.
But it's also, I need to jump in and say, like, neither is better. They're two different
Two
things.
different skill sets.
And I'm not, you know, we can't curse in there. I'm not trying to say something mean about nobody, but like, you know, it's two different things. And I've noticed that like some of the people who are like really flashy, you know, they play like they're the only member of the band. And that's great if you are the only member of the band. If you're just playing by yourself, then it's great. But I find it probably difficult if you just know one to do the other. And which is why I'm always happy when I see like active musicians, newer musicians, not just younger musicians, people in general. And like they have like flavor. Like Shane is a monster on the kit, but it's never flashy. It's rock solid. And like John, like there's just so much like flavor and so much like distinct. Like I know it's y'all. It's like when you hear Stevie Wonder play the harmonica, you can tell it's Stevie Wonder on the harmonica. It's like y'all. I can tell it's y'all when you're playing the drums, which is it's really hard to develop a voice on an instrument that you can't see, you just hear, and that comes from practice and also listening. So.
And that's what I feel so fortunate to have grown up here and to have, you know, I worked at Music Around for 5 years. You worked there for a time. You've shopped there forever, and so is Shane. And right now I'm in a room filled with, you know, folks I've known since I was 16, 17 years old. And the beautiful thing about Music Around is the people who hang out there and the people who work and hang out there, I think all of them, it's safe to say, have that voice and that passion and that intention. And so it's easier to serve other musicians. That's what's so fun about music retail for me is like, I still, you know, geek on that stuff, geek on Music Around because it's like you're the bartender for all these people for their gear. And you're, in some respect, helping them based on your tastes to inform their tastes, to help them develop their voice, whether it's shooting the wind about playing or shooting the wind about gear. So I just want to do a quick shout out to thank everybody who's here right now. Bert, Josh, Tim, we got Ryan and Brian, Joe in the back. We got the whole crew is here. Even my wife's here, so I'm gonna shout out my wife real quick. But it's this is just such a special group of folks who do this here in Milwaukee and Kenosha, and we're very fortunate to be here and talk about this stuff. So thank you all very much. So on that note of music go around, we're gonna do one last question here, and we're gonna ask, what is your favorite piece of gear that you picked up from music around in the recent past? I'll start. I bought a $10 tambourine that was probably 75 years old, but man, did it sound cool.
Is it wood?
Yeah, it's wood.
Yeah.
It's got these old rusty jingles, and it just fits in my suitcase, so it's coming with me on my travels in the near future here. What about Sahan? You got a pretty piece of gear behind us here that you just got.
My first pair of hi-hat cymbals came from Music Around in 1996. Shout out my Meinl laser hi-hats. I was trying to figure out how to put them, like how to actually make hi-hats work. I had to look at the CD insert for the Weezer Blue album to figure it out. So I've been shopping there since the store opened. But I think like a month ago, 2 months ago, I got this Ludwig standard kit, which you can probably like pop in like a picture or something, or whatever.
I'd also like to just say I texted you and told you need to buy this.
You harassed me at work and said, yo, either you or one of your friends got to buy this. And it's a Ludwig standard kit, red Astro finish, 2012-14, and I've been trying to cop a kit with a 14-inch rack tom for a long time.
Floor tom, thank you. I don't play drums. A 20-inch floor tom for a really long time, and they're just hard to come by. People want them. They're usually like pretty expensive, and it's a player grade kit, but it was so dope. And I've never owned a standard kit, and I've always kind of wanted one. And I bought this like a month and a half ago. Like they are still providing me with like fire gear like on the regular. Now, John, what about you? Is it that acrylite?
It has to be the acrylite.
I got to interject on this one. And this is one of my favorite things about music around is you never know where this gear is going to come from.
True.
That acrylite was owned by one of my drum mentors who wound up passing away a few years ago. And we wound up selling it to Music Around. And at the time, it had a bunch of illicit stickers on it at the time.
I remember.
Picturing a certain green plant.
I remember.
And those were taken off. I hope you took it off.
Well, when I seen the before they took them off, it was a lot. It was pretty.
But it's crazy because it goes from my mentor in North Chicago to Music Around, and now it's with you in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
It's actually in the car.
You got to bring it out.
It's in the car. Yeah, that was I have to say, that's been the best piece of gear that I've purchased from Music Around as of late, is that acrylite. I go back to what I said earlier, character. The drum has character, not from the finish to the small modifications, from it's just the snare wires on the bottom to head choice. It's the character. But every time I play it, like, dude, that thing sounds great. Like, I know it's an acrylite. Like, just a regular acrylite. Dude, weird. Music Around. Go to Music Around and get one. So it's definitely the acrylite snare for me. Man, yeah, I love it.
What about you, Shane? You said you just got something new, huh?
I did. It's not drum related.
That's okay.
But Sahan is to thank. So I was kind of on the hunt for a Fender Bassman, specifically the black plate, which I believe is from 65 to 67 or something like that.
Sounds about right.
I'll mess those years up.
64 to 67.
Something like that, yeah. And if I understand this correctly, I believe that model was also kind of, or was essentially what Marshall was based off of. Like, I think that the Jim Marshall design Marshall kind of off that circuit. But anyway, I've had those heads come through the studio a handful of times over the years, and they sounded great. And then I just was kind of, hyper focus hit one day. I was like, I need a Bassman, and so that's the hunt started. And I posted a thing on Facebook just asking if any friends had one for sale, and Sahan texted me. He's like, dude, I think I just saw one at Music Around like the other day. And I was like, oh, so yeah. Hit up Music Around. I was like, do you still have the thing that I want? And they did. And so, yeah, I went and got it. So thank you.
I mean, I knew it was going to be in good hands.
Yeah, I mean,
some ding dong asked for a basement. I wouldn't say nothing.
I cannot believe that somebody got rid of that. I'm glad they did. But yeah, I mean, I'll have that amp forever. It's amazing. It's the guitar through it, incredible. Bass through it, incredible. It's probably one of the most versatile amps in the studio right now. So yeah, I just got that a month ago, something like that. So yeah, Music Around.
Music Around.
Music Around.
Music Around.
All right. Well, this we'll say this is the conclusion of Drum and Dumber. I can't even say it. Drum and Dumber Part 1. The Music Go Round Table. Now us dumb idiots are gonna hop behind the drum set and make some noise. How about that?
Are your shoes supposed to look like Wolverine?
I am Wolverine.
Oh, there it is.
That's the end of that.